Hey, Crystal Maiden here for part 15 of Minish. So, let's start out by showing the perfect way to use the Pick-a-Light. This is single reason why I love the Great Spin Attack in this game so much. Well, that, and it makes a certain enemy in the game a lot easier to deal with. I mean, they're easy to deal with before with the strategy I use, but they go down a lot faster this way. If in case you haven't figured it out by now, I'm talking about Dark Nuts. They're going to be made a lot easier by using this attack. And this makes it really glaring and annoying how every time you get a Kinstone piece, the game has to give a text box telling you what it is. You can't just walk into a Kinstone piece and instantly collect it. Oh no. That would be too simple. And this is an advanced game. And advanced new Zelda games have to make it so that text box always shows up to remind you what you got. Because epicness. Except no, it's just annoying. And yeah, I should have done this as soon as I got the lantern, but I guess I just forgot. I like that he's a shy person because it helps to make his character feel more fleshed out and sympathetic. Otherwise, he'd be kind of one-dimensional, because he'd just be the poet, and that's it. Also, I don't really like his sprite, because if you look closely, it sort of looks like he's smoking a cigarette. You know? When he's standing there. He's holding a white thing, and he puts it to his mouth a lot. I'm not really sure how they got away with that. It's pretty lazy that they didn't bother to give her a second text box for when you got one candle lit. Like, she doesn't freak out at you or anything. I think it's mainly when you're fusing Kindstones with him that he has that suspect sprite. But yeah, that's something you can accomplish as soon as you get the lantern. And yeah, see what I mean about why do they change their minds? Why did they think that was a good idea? That's not fun. Like, you think a good way to reward strategy and, like, ingenuity would be to make it so that NPCs never change their minds. Why is he advertising his competition? That was never really explained. The whole game, they're competing against each other. And I guess they're both losing business, but that doesn't mean that they should advertise their rivals. Also, Percy's poems, they don't really rhyme, do they? I guess it's not fair to expect them to rhyme because they're translated from Japanese to English. I guess they rhymed in Japanese. And yeah, you have to go through the stealth section all over again if you want to get the Kinstone fusion reward as early as you possibly can. Because you could just wait until the next time you have to go through this place in the plot and then get it. But I was impatient, and I like to get my Kinstone rewards as soon as possible, so that I don't forget that I have them, have an awareness that I forgot, and then end up looking at the map individually of every single area in the game, just to find out where the Kinstone reward is. It's a good thing that the map of an area actually tells you that there's a Kinstone reward there. Because otherwise it would be really easy to forget that you had a Kinstone reward and end up never picking it up if you forget about it. And I just don't know why they thought it was a good idea to make it so that NPCs could change their minds about fusing with you. But yeah, Percy's poems don't really rhyme. But apparently poems don't have to rhyme, although I heavily disagree with that. I mean, like, songs are poems. But if you heard a song that didn't rhyme, a lot of people would make fun of it. So I don't know. And something I haven't mentioned yet is that, well, most of the warp spots in this game are pretty well placed. Pretty convenient, and the warp spots make it a lot less tedious that you have to backtrack to get all of the goodies that you unlock. But then you got Mish Woods. And the annoying thing about Minish Woods is that it's essentially separated into two halves. There's the southern half that you can't really do much with. It's the area closest to the Minish village. And yeah, this is a really good way to rack up. This is a really good way to rack up money. Because Beetle said that you can make back the amount of money that you spent on it. You can do more than just that. Like, look at how much money I have now. So you don't ever need to grind for rupees just outside Link's house ever again. Oh boy, I wonder what reward this will give me. There's no way in hell that could ever be disappointing. So let's see what's inside. The anticipation is killing me! Oh, it's a fairy fountain. Well, that was useless. Well, that was lazy. He said that there is going to be more coming up, but then he confirmed that there isn't. But anyways, Minish Woods has the worst placed warp spot in the game. I wish it was just to the southeast of Minish Village instead of being where it is, because the warp spot is northwest of Minish Village, which means that if you want to go to the rest of Mish Woods, which you usually will want to do to collect the Kinstone rewards, then you're gonna have to go all the way through Minish Village, or you'll have to warp to Minish Woods, and then exit it from the west, and then go all the way through Eastern Hills, and back into it from the northern entrance. Or the northwestern entrance. My point is, it's such a badly placed warp spot. Why did they have to split the forest in half like that? It's not even split in half, really, because it's such a tiny part of it that you warp to. And you notice that a whole bunch of the Wind Tribe people have names that have to do with wind or birds. I like that attention to detail. He is called Grimblade, but they all have names that involve blades of some sort. But they don't really seem to have different personalities. The only Swiftblade teacher with a personality that sticks out to me is the Surfer Dude teacher. And he's kind of annoying. And I guess he's supposed to be a teenager, but they all look pretty much the same, but with different colors. So you can't really tell that one's supposed to be a teenager. And I kind of like his response. Because all the other NPCs, when you fuse Kindstones with them, they're like, oh boy, I can't wait to benefit from this good fortune I'll get. But Dampy is just like, huh, they fit. He's so apathetic about it. So now you get to fuse Kindstones with a Giddy. But thankfully, instead of being annoying and attacking you, for some reason this Giddy is actually nice. But this is kind of confusing because I thought all the monsters in this game were supposed to be the monsters that Faty accidentally released by breaking that chest open. So does that mean that this good character was released from the chest as well? Also, this is one of the few NPCs that you can immediately fuse Kindstones with again after fusing Kindstones with her. Just like the Minish across the sea in Minish Village. And like I said before, when you're in Western Woods, you can make it so that the fallen trees aren't fallen anymore and get treasure from them. The Western Woods isn't really all that different otherwise. Yay! So now I can split into 4 different links at the speed that I should have been able to do in the first place. And even then, I still think it should have been faster. You're not going to be able to do much here right now. You'll have to go back here in the post-game to... Well, not necessarily the post-game, but... Yeah, this is kind of weird. If two yellow Minish never show up in the same place, then how have yellow Minish not gone extinct by this point? And she's talking as if yellow Minish aren't just Minish that happen to be wearing yellow clothes. So are the yellow clothes rare? Or is it that the yellow Minish are a different race of Minish and they wear yellow to represent that? I don't know. And why do I have to fight another one of these guys? These guys are so annoying. They constantly land on top of you when you're attacking them. And because they jump so far, your only strategy is to desperately mash the B button while standing still and hope that they jump into your sword. And none of the golden monsters can be flinched. They don't get knocked back or anything. I complimented Hyrule Town before for having a whole bunch of actual human facilities in it that makes the place feel more alive. And it's better than having just houses everywhere. But still, where are all these people living? Because there's so many different people in Hyrule Town. But you barely ever see any actual houses. You don't even see locked apartment buildings. Because in Castletown and Twilight Princess, there were a bunch of doors that you couldn't go into. And so it was sort of believable that there were so many people in there, because you could believe that they... really? Well, I guess now the game finally decided to start switching it up. So now we're finally back in the Palace of the Winds. And I like this dungeon quite a bit. The Rock's Cape is like the Rock's Feather in Link's Awakening, but it's really not. What you gotta do is jump with it and then hold down the button that it's equipped to, and you'll be able to fly across the pits. But you can only really fly in one direction. Yeah, this is another way that you can deal with these guys. And again, you only know that if you read Swiftblade's books. But it's really pointless because, well, I guess if you don't want to unequip your sword to flip them over with the shield. And I think you can flip them over with bombs too, and of course the Cane of Passy works, but why would you ever take that out again? I mean, you don't really, aside from some rooms like this, you don't really use it all that often. It is good that they don't make it completely useless after the dungeon you get it in, though. Yeah, that always happens to me. I'm always rolling against the wind. At least you can roll against the wind. And here's the last of the Mario references. This chain link fence that you can flip over and get to the other side of is a reference to the ones in Super Mario World in the first dungeon of the game. In the first castle, I mean. I think they look very similar to them. Although they're not exactly the same color. But yeah, it's really good that they have that in there. Because it would be boring if all you did with the Rock's Cape was jump around and jump across pits. Link's Awakening felt like more of a platforming Zelda game because you got the Rock's Feathers so early. And so there were constantly moments where you had to equip the Rock's Feather to jump over the holes. In this game, they don't give you the Rock's Cape until a lot later in the game. So they don't have to design most of the game around it. Which is kind of good because you only have 2 item slots. And you don't want to be constantly using the same item over and over again when you really only have 1 item slot to work with without unequipping your sword. But yeah, there's a lot of fun, creative puzzles here that you never really see in other Zelda games. Like, you gotta hurry up with that one or you'll get knocked into the pit by the blocks. And you can jump through those panels. And I love the music of this place. Like, this is another song from the game that I would just go out of my way to listen to. And it's good that you don't have to stand perfectly still to flip the panels over. I'm always impatient, so I just take the hit and run. This Zelda game doesn't like to abandon puzzles. You're always going to be shrinking to get through secret passages. You're always going to be splitting yourself apart. You're always going to be using items from previous dungeons. And here's a really creative puzzle, because you would never have expected up to this point that you would be able to take advantage of the fact that you can push objects as a Minish in a dungeon. You wouldn't, because before you only did this in the overworld, but here you're actually doing it here. And I sort of wasted time there. You don't really have to push the jars off the edge. I just like doing it because I feel like it. I like getting rid of as many jars as possible. I don't know why they had a pointless fade out there. Because like the screen faded to white for some reason. Yeah, another thing that makes this dungeon feel unique is that there's outside areas and indoors areas. Cause like, if it's like Dragon Roost Cavern, cause in Dragon Roost Cavern you could go outside a whole bunch of times, and you were still in a dungeon. And here you can do that as well. See you in the next part.